Latest news. Washington is in the eye of the storm with 3 bombs that could revolutionize our 2025. As our first-round rookie tackle amazes at minicamp with a legendary mindset, a veteran beloved by fans might return to fill the dangerous gap in our secondary. And the most explosive, the elite pass rusher who just declared war on their current team, has Peters with the phone buzzing. The Commanders are about to make a statement that nobody in the NFL sees coming. Subscribe now, or you'll miss how a dynasty is being built in Washington, D.C. If you want exclusives, this is your channel. The first-round pick tackle is sending a clear message from his first day with the burgundy and gold helmet. Josh Conerly Jr., the 29th selection of the 2025 draft, is not wasting any time at the Commanders' rookie minicamp. His presence is already felt, and the coaches are taking note. Conerly's arrival in Washington represents a significant change in the team's building philosophy. While other franchises were desperately chasing quarterbacks or receivers in the draft, Adam Peters showed he understands a fundamental truth of American football. Games are won in the trenches. Why did Adam Peters ignore other more urgent needs to select this kid from Oregon? The answer is simple but powerful. Transformative potential. In his 3 seasons with the Ducks, Conerly demonstrated exceptional versatility, allowing just 4 sacks in over 1,500 offensive plays. His combine metrics were impressive. 5.21 seconds in the 40-yard dash, 31 reps on the bench press, and a wingspan that makes offensive line coaches drool. Compared to tackles taken in the first round in previous years, Conerly has numbers reminiscent of a young Trent Williams. I'm not saying he'll be the next Williams, but the similarities in terms of athleticism and footwork are undeniable. What Peters saw was an opportunity to secure one of the most crucial and costly positions in the modern game with young, moldable talent. Conerly didn't come to Washington thinking he had already made it. On the contrary, his mindset has been refreshing and surprisingly mature for a player his age. The helmet felt great. It was really a dream come true. You know what I mean? You have to know your stuff and know it fast. That's the only way to get out there, the rookie told SI. But what this quote doesn't reveal is what the coaches have said behind the scenes. According to sources close to the team, Conerly has been arriving first and leaving last from the facilities. He's requested game tapes of Tunsil to study his technique and has been absorbing the playbook like a sponge. This level of dedication is exactly what sets good prospects apart from future All-Pros. This guy understands that being a first-round pick doesn't guarantee anything in this league. The NFL is full of first-round talent cemeteries that never materialized their potential. Remember Robert Gallery or Jason Smith? How about Luke Joeckel? All were top 5 picks and none lived up to the expectations. The difference between them and players like Tyron Smith or Ryan Ramczyk wasn't just talent, but mindset, exactly what Conerly is demonstrating from day one. Now, I ask you, how many first-round tackles have we seen fail because they thought they already had the job secured? Too many, I tell you. The story is clear. Talent gets you to the draft, but hard work keeps you in the league. What impresses me most is how his work ethic is influencing the other rookies. When the highest profile player is setting the example, the ripple effect is inevitable. Camp reports indicate that competitiveness in practices has risen considerably. 5th-round receiver Tony Johnson was seen staying after practice to work on his routes. 3rd-round linebacker Marcus Williams has been studying the defensive system late into the night. This is no coincidence. When they see a first-round pick working like this, what excuse do the others have? None. This is exactly the culture Dan Quinn wants to implement. A standard bearers mentality, where effort and dedication are contagious. The challenge for Conerly will be translating this work ethic into tangible results on the field. The transition from college to pro football is notoriously difficult for offensive linemen. Techniques that worked against 20-year-old defenders in the NCAA aren't always effective against veterans with years of experience in the NFL. To complicate matters, the NFC East has some of the best pass rushers in the league. Micah Parsons, Dexter Lawrence, Hassan Reddick. The list is intimidating. However, Connerly has an advantage that few rookies can claim. A mentor of Laramie Tunsil's caliber on the other side of the line. Tunsil, with his 5 Pro Bowl selections, represents the standard to which any tackle in C. This league should aspire. The coaches have already scheduled joint work sessions where Tunsil will teach the rookie the subtleties of the game that don't appear in any playbook. Offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy has designed a specialized program to gradually integrate Connerly into the system. It's no coincidence that the playbook includes more protections with assistance on the right side during the first weeks, allowing him to adapt without overexposing him. This shows that the organization recognizes his potential, but also understands that development doesn't happen overnight. Can Connerly earn the starting right tackle spot and form a wall alongside Laramie Tunsil? The odds are high, but it's not a guaranteed outcome. He'll have to overcome competition from Andrew Wiley, who despite his inconsistencies, has the experience the rookie lacks. However, the fact that the Commanders invested a first-round pick in him clearly indicates the front office's intentions. If Connerly manages to secure the starting spot, the impact could be immediate and dramatic. Last year, quarterback Jaden Daniels faced pressure on 28% of his dropbacks, significantly above the league average. A stabilized offensive line with Tunsil and Connerly as bookends could drastically reduce that figure, allowing the offense to reach its true potential. To put this in perspective, think of the impact Tristan Wirfs had on the Buccaneers during the Super Bowl season with Brady. Sometimes, a single lineman can transform an entire offensive unit. That's the ceiling for Connerly. I believe he's on his way to becoming a pillar of this franchise for the next 10 years. His first challenge as a professional is already overcome, setting the tone for the others. And he's just getting started. If he keeps this trajectory, the future of Washington's offensive line looks bright for the first time in many years. The Commanders let go of Jeremy Chinn when the Raiders offered him a contract Washington didn't want to match. The decision was purely financial, but it left a void in the secondary that urgently needs to be filled if we want to maintain the defensive level that positioned us among the best units in the league last season. To contextualize the magnitude of this loss, let's review what Chinn brought. 83 tackles, 58 solo, 4 passes defended, 2 interceptions, and a constant presence in the box to support against the run. His versatility allowed coordinators to implement diverse defensives packages, alternating between man and zone coverages without changing personnel. Losing this type of player isn't solved by simply promoting the next name on the depth chart. The solution? It could be in bringing back an old acquaintance and fan favorite, someone whose knowledge of the system and team culture would minimize. Adaptation time. Kendall Fuller, who has worn Washington's colors on 2 different occasions, 2016 to 2017 and 2020 to 2023, might be preparing for a 3rd stint with the team that originally drafted him in 2016. Fuller's history with Washington is fascinating. Drafted in the 3rd round of the 2016 draft, Fuller showed flashes of brilliance before being included in the trade for Alex Smith in 2018. After winning a Super Bowl with Kansas City, he returned to Washington in 2020 as a free agent, signing a 4-year, $40 million contract. During that second tenure, Fuller emerged as one of the most consistent cornerbacks in the league, registering 8 interceptions over 4 seasons and establishing himself as a pillar of the secondary. His versatility is precisely what makes this possibility so appealing. Throughout his career, Fuller has demonstrated the ability to play both on the outside and in the slot, and even has experience at safety positions. This adaptability makes him ideal for the gap Chinn left. Dean Jones of Rigo's Rag laid it out with crystal clarity. The league is full of cornerbacks moving to safety to prolong their careers. Charles Woodson, Rod Woodson, and Rondé Barber are just a few examples of players who made this transition successfully. The Commanders have 5 starting-level cornerbacks with Benjamin St-Juste, Marshawn Lattimore, Noah Igbinoghene, Emmanuel Forbes, and Mike Sainristil. Fuller would provide additional versatility and depth to a position that might need him as the season progresses. Jones also argued that moving him to the safety position brings a fair amount of benefits. Whether this is something Washington or the player would consider is another matter. The comparison to Charles Woodson is particularly intriguing. Woodson rejuvenated his career when he moved to safety, winning Defensive Player of the Year at 33 with the Packers. Fuller, though not at the level of a future Hall of Famer like Woodson, could experience a similar transition that would extend his career several years. Fuller recently turned 30, the age when many cornerbacks begin to lose that crucial step. That makes the difference between an interception and a touchdown reception. However, he's still playing at a good level with the Dolphins, demonstrating that he still has gas in the tank. In 2024, he amassed 50 total tackles, 7 passes defended, and a tackle for loss in just 11 games. Extrapolated to a full season, these figures would be comparable to some of his best years. His allowed QBR was 89.3, respectable for a cornerback frequently facing number 1 receivers. These numbers don't lie. He's still productive, despite being in the declining phase of his career by traditional standards. From a tactical perspective, adding Fuller would solve several problems simultaneously. First, it would provide a player capable of taking on Chin's role in sub-packaging. Second, his experience in the NFC East's defensive system, having played against Dallas, Philadelphia, and New York for years, represents invaluable institutional knowledge. Third, his ability to mentor young players like Forbes and Senristil would accelerate their development, paying dividends for years. The defensive scheme that Dan Quinn and his team are implementing requires intelligent players who can quickly process information and adjust on the fly. Fuller, with his 9 seasons of experience, fits exactly this profile. He can recognize formations, anticipate routes, and communicate adjustments, skills that aren't easily taught to younger players. Now, I ask you, wouldn't it be ideal to bring in someone who already knows the organization and has the experience to adapt to a new position? Someone who would immediately understand Quinn's expectations and could implement the system from day one. I believe Fuller could be exactly what we need to keep our secondary among the best in the league. The numbers back this theory. Last season, the Commanders allowed the 3rd fewest passing yards in the entire NFL, averaging just 183.5 yards per game. This was no coincidence but the result of an effective combination of pass rush and coverage, a delicate balance that could be compromised with Chin's departure. Fuller, with his experience and versatility, could be the piece that keeps that balance intact. From a financial perspective, this move also makes sense. Fuller probably wouldn't command an excessive salary at this stage of his career. A 2-year contract for about $10 to $12 million with performance-based incentives would be reasonable for both parties, providing security to the player, while maintaining flexibility for the team. The nostalgia factor shouldn't be underestimated either. In an era where players rarely stay with one team for their entire career, bringing back a beloved alumnus generates goodwill among the face. Fuller was always appreciated in Washington, not just for his on-field performance, but for his professionalism and contributions to the community. His return would be celebrated by a fan base that values continuity and loyalty. Losing someone of Chin's caliber is a hard blow. No way to minimize it. But the NFL is a business of adaptation, and teams that find creative solutions to unexpected problems are the ones that thrive long. While Fuller isn't an exact replica of Chin, his unique skill set could provide an adequate replacement with the added benefit of institutional. Will Fuller be able to return to Washington for a third act in his career? Will he accept the challenge of changing positions at this stage of his career? The coming weeks will be critical as Peters and his team evaluate all available options. What is clear is that the Commanders' secondary needs reinforcements, and few candidates would make as much sense as Kendall Fuller's return. The news that could completely change the defensive landscape for the Commanders is about to break. Trey Hendrickson, the All-Pro from the Cincinnati Bengals, is furious with his team and has made it clear he wants out. This situation represents a unique opportunity for Washington to acquire one of the most dominant pass rushers in the NFL today. To put into perspective what Hendrickson's arrival would mean, consider his stats. 17.5 sacks last season, second in the NFL. 22 tackles for loss, 33 QB hits, and 3 forced fumbles. These aren't the stats of a good player. They're the figures of an elite player who impacts every defensive snap. The situation with the Bengals seems to have reached a point of no return, a scenario the Commanders could strategically exploit. Hendrickson requested a trade earlier, this preseason, and although it seemed both parties were willing to reach an agreement, the deterioration of relations has accelerated in recent weeks. In an explosive statement to Adam Schefter from ESPN, Hendrickson revealed, "There hasn't been communication between my agent and the organization after the draft. The offers before the draft did not reflect the vision shared and promised to me last season if I continued playing at a high level. The coaches are aware of these past conversations. Instead of using collaboration to get us to a point that brings me back to the team, they are no longer communicating. I've been eagerly waiting for a resolution to this situation. But that's hard when there's no discussion, and there's an evident lack of interest in reaching mutual goals." The language is unequivocal and reveals a fundamental fracture in the relationship. The reference to broken promises and the capitalization of "they" show the level of frustration Hendrickson is experiencing. From Cincinnati's perspective, this is devastating. From Washington's perspective, it's a golden opportunity. Let's analyze for a moment what Hendrickson could bring to the Commanders' defensive front. In 2024, Washington finished 18th in total sacks with 38, significantly below the league's best teams. Adding a player of Hendrickson's caliber could potentially raise that figure to over 45, transforming an average unit into a dominant force. Tactically, Hendrickson's versatility would fit perfectly into Don Quinn's system. Unlike some one-dimensional pass rushers, Hendrickson is effective against both the run and in passing situations. His ability to set the edge would force opposing teams to run inside, where Washington's defensive tackles could do their job. Can you imagine what Hendrickson could do for our defense? I tell you this, he is one of the most productive pass rushers in the entire league, bringing elite-level consistency and a phenomenal work ethic. NFC East quarterbacks would have nightmares knowing they have to face Hendrickson twice a year. Let's compare Hendrickson to Washington's current edge rushers. Dante Fowler Jr. recorded 8 sacks last year, while Clelin Ferrell only reached 3.5. The difference between these players and Hendrickson isn't just quantitative, but qualitative. Hendrickson demands constant double teams, creating opportunities for others along the defensive line. Neither Fowler nor Ferrell generates that level of attention from opposing offenses. Historically, teams that have won the Super Bowl over the last decade have tended to have at least one elite pass rusher. The Chiefs had Chris Jones, the Rams had Aaron Donald, the Buccaneers had Shaquille Barrett, and so on. The correlation between consistent defensive pressure and playoff success is indisputable, and Hendrickson would provide that exact element. Another factor to consider is Washington's competitive win. With Jaden Daniels on a rookie contract, the Commanders have a unique opportunity to invest aggressively in other positions before they eventually have to pay their quarterback a significant amount. This dynamic, similar to what the Seahawks capitalized on with Russell Wilson or the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes in their early years, presents a compelling case for making a bold move like acquiring Hendrickson. But now I ask you, do we have what it takes to make this signing? It's not as simple as it first appears. The Commanders have only 5 draft picks in 2026 after giving up their 2nd-round pick for Laramie Tunsil and their 4th-round pick for Marshawn Lattimore. Unless Adam Peters is willing to part with 2027 picks, we might not have the necessary capital to convince the Bengals. The estimated price would be high, probably a 1st-round pick plus a 3rd or 4th, or potentially an established player along with picks. It's a steep price, but considering Hendrickson is in his prime at 30 years old, it might be worth it for a team with immediate playoff aspirations. Moreover, Hendrickson wants a new contract, another significant hurdle. Looking at the current pass rusher market and his exceptional numbers, around $30 million per year seems realistic. For context, Nick Bosa earns $34 million annually, Myles Garrett $28 million, and TJ Watt $28 million. Hendrickson clearly belongs in this elite category. The Commanders have others to pay in the near future. Jaden Daniels will eventually need a massive extension, and promising young players like Jahan Dotson will also be seeking second contracts. Managing the salary cap would require some smart financial maneuvering to make this transaction happen without compromising the team's future flex. One possibility would be to structure the contract with significant signing bonuses and lower base salaries in the first years. leveraging the current cap space while deferring some impacts for when the salary cap has increased. This approach has risks, but it would allow Washington to maximize its current competitive window. Although it seems unlikely, even though Hendrickson's relationship with the Bengals is reaching the point of no return, if Peters believes he can help Washington take the next step, he'll find a way to make it work. His track record both with San Francisco and in his early months with Washington suggests he's not afraid to make bold moves when he identifies an opportunity. The acquisition of Hendrickson would instantly transform expectations for the 2025 season. From a rebuilding team with wildcard hopes, the Commanders would become legitimate contenders in the NFC. The combination of a dynamic quarterback in Daniels, improved protection with Tunsil and potentially Connerly, and an elite pass rusher like Hendrickson would create a balanced team capable of competing one. Would you sacrifice future for the present in this case? NFL history is full of teams that waited too long to go all in and watched their competitive windows close. The Seahawks after their Super Bowl X-null-lied defeat, the Packers during Rodgers' final years, the Saints after 20. Sometimes, the opportunity to win now justifies the risks for the future, especially with a promising quarterback on an affordable. The final decision will rest with Peters and head coach Quinn. Both understand that building a contender requires both patience and timely aggressiveness. If they determine that Hendrickson is the piece that could catapult this team to the next level, I wouldn't be surprised to see them do whatever it takes to. The coming days and weeks will be crucial as this situation unfolds. The Bengals might decide to repair the relationship and offer the contract Hendrickson is seeking. Other teams with more draft capital could enter the conversation. But if there's an opportunity for Washington, I expect Peters to be aggressive. In the modern NFL, windows to win are narrower than ever, and opportunities to acquire truly transformational players are rare. These three news stories could define the immediate future of our Commanders. From a rookie with a winning mindset who could secure our offensive line for a decade, to a potential nostalgic return that would solidify our secondary, to an explosive signing that would transform our defensive line overnight. We are witnessing Adam Peters meticulously build a contender, not just for this year, but for the future. Every move has a purpose. Every decision is calculated. The combination of developing young talent with strategic veteran acquisitions is the proven method for building dynasties in the modern NFL. What do you think about rookie Connerly? Does he have the potential to become a cornerstone of our offensive line? Or will he need time to develop? His performance in training camp and preseason will give us important clues about his immediate trajectory. Do you believe Fuller should return for a third stint with the team? Would the transition to safety work? Or would you prefer the team to look for a more natural replacement for Chin? Fuller's versatility and experience are compelling arguments, but age and wear are factors to consider, and most importantly, would it be worth sacrificing draft capital to get Hendrickson? Is this the moment for Washington to be aggressive in the market, or should we continue with the patient approach that has guided the rebuild so far? The difference between good teams and great teams often lies in these crucial decisions. If you want to stay up to date with all the Commanders news, click the subscription button right now. We are a family, a community that lives and breathes for this team. Your feedback is key in the comments, and don't miss our upcoming analyses where we'll keep deciphering each move by the management. Additionally, we'll be covering the training camp live starting next month with exclusive interviews and detailed analysis of every practice. You won't want to miss our insights into how these developments will affect the team on the field. And remember, this is a new era for football in Washington. We have a new owner, a new general manager, a new coach, and a new energy. The decisions made today will define the trajectory of this franchise for years. So stay connected because together, we are witnessing the rebirth of a historic franchise. Hail to the Commanders!